Hi everyone, welcome to my matchup guide. In this video I'll talk about Caitlyn's best and worst matchups and synergies according to my own opinion. People in general have a poor understanding of the flexibility that Caitlyn has in terms of how to play the lane and the game. Caitlyn is not forced to play for plates and dominate lane through perma-push. She scales super well as long as you are not behind, and she can play freezes pretty well with a good setup support. First off, let's talk about support synergies. Ideally, you want to have a support that has setup for your traps, which means they need to have enough hard CC to last 1.5 seconds, which should give you enough time to react and place a trap before they can walk out of it. Another option is having a ranged support that helps you in playing for poke and perma-shove the enemy under turret, which will grant you plates and lane dominance if the matchup allows. For example, in this matchup against Corki Nautilus, I cannot play for plates or poke them under turret because they have really strong all-in threat with either a hook or a flash based attack from Nautilus, so even with a ranged support I cannot play for those plates. A strong downside that I feel whenever I play with a ranged support is that if the enemy has a setup support, the enemy jungler is much more likely to gank bot, and your jungler is much more likely to ignore bot lane, as you don't have setup for a gank and the enemy has it. This leads to a lot of frustration as you want to play aggressively and use your strengths to take plates and get ahead, but if the enemy jungler is permanently on bot, you cannot play for anything. Unless they are of course griefing and losing to V3. Here is the Caitlyn Synergy tier list. As I mentioned, having setup for your traps is quite a huge plus, as without it you will be missing a lot of damage in all-ins, and it will be harder for you to pick up kills and get ahead. Thresh is really good because you can hook somebody and you can blast them without having the support commit to melee range. And Braum is also very good because you can get a guaranteed trap setup for every target that has Braum passive, which on teamfights ends up being very strong against any champion that jumps on you. While Karma and Lux work very well with Caitlyn, having that downside of being a gank magnet really lowers the score, as it often leads to you and your support having lots of frustration and tilting your team overall, which leads you to winning less games. Blitzcrank would be much higher if his E didn't throw the enemy into a random direction, which makes it super RNG whether or not he can land your trap on his hooked target. Bard gets a high score because with his ultimate, if he hits anyone, you are guaranteed traps on the enemy, and that's really big, especially versus immobile carries that end up getting one-shotted by your combo. For matchups, I will talk only about direct 1v1 matchups, as a support matchup is very dependent on its counterpart and how they interact with each other, so it's not specific to Caitlyn. What you are seeing here are my Caitlyn matchups record, which you can find on a PGG. So you can see the win rate I have against each ADC, and it has quite a good sample size for the first few matchups. Most popular matchup is Jhin, which I think theoretically is an okay matchup that tries to neutralize your pushing power, but since I play very aggressively and stack waves, Jhin cannot wave clear as easily since his Q can only hit 4 targets, so he ends up losing plates frequently against me. Ezreal is a worse matchup, even though he has less wave clear, because he is a very strong laning champion and has a really good all-in strength that even with your EW combo he can brute force an all-in, or alternatively he can poke you from higher range and then all-in. Ashe is similar to Ezreal but has a stronger all-in, as she does not need to land any skill shots to be strong and gets a lot of speed with approach velocity while she slows you, so you end up getting caught often either by her ult or by getting tagged by her W. However, I think the reason I have such a bad win rate against Ashe is due to my build that heavily gets punished by these slows and ult, because I play greedy with tier 1 boots and no cleanse. I have a bad win rate versus Kai'Sa because in teamfights she is very strong against Caitlyn, as she can easily assassinate you or force you to split attention, which makes it very hard to use your E effectively. However, in lane she suffers against Caitlyn as you have stronger wave clear and she has no range, so you can usually farm plates. The other champions I think are self-explanatory from what I've said before. Hippie Kog'Maw is really good against Caitlyn as he can neutralize or even poke you out of lane. Also, since he has a very big range on his ult, he can hit you very easily whenever you E or Q or ult anyone in teamfights. Last thing I want to say is that those matchups against mages on bot lane shouldn't be that high win rate. They can neutralize or win lane like AP Combo does, but they are more prone to mistakes, and they are often played by players that don't know what they are doing, and I end up just outplaying them. So yeah, this is the end of the video. If you have any questions or things that I didn't mention, some matchups or synergies, you can ask them in the comments below. And yeah, like the video, follow me on other socials and all that stuff. Bye.